Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to our podcast here today. People bring profit into the storm of hospitality. Thanks for joining us. This is a topic again that we're going to kind of go back to some stuff that we talked about in a couple of the others that we threw these isms out. And that's what people always ask us, and especially people that work for us are like, man, these isms, and it's Chrisisms. And I heard that word a long time ago because I used to coach Little League football. And as I coached Little League football, I had some great kids, but they were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and as they grew up, but I'd always try to teach them the game of football. And it was so hard to explain to a kid to block down or block this way. And I remember the first one I learned was, okay, I need you to block downhill. Like, what means downhill? I was like, well, the mountain water runs downhill. So block downhill, the mountain goes downhill. And I'd always say little things like that, and they caught on to it. They're like, oh, that's easy. Because every time during a game when they'd forget, I'm like, block, water goes downhill. The center is the valley. The tackle is the mountain. So then they picked up on it. And then that just changed who I was. You were part of that, Kim, with me. And parents would make jokes like, Chrisisms, and they always say, come up with these Chrisisms. And still today, kids come and say, Coach, I loved how you always taught me this. And that's carried over. And I think that's important to us. And as we talk about this today, it's kind of your DNA as a leader. And as your guys are out there, you have to find a way to share your vision or share what's in your brain without having to spend 30 minutes typing an email or writing a letter or taking too much of your people's time in the field. And you just got to kind of say a couple words of isms, and it really helps them understand who you are and what the company is. And as leaders, and I feel like in a visionary, you have to do that as a leader, entrepreneurs, but not just me, and that's something I'm hearing y'all say more. And y'all are running with it. And I'm anxious to get into this topic because y'all could probably list 1,000 you've heard from me before. But I'm anxious to hear what you have, because me as the leader or the visionary, when I hear y'all say something, it inspires me too. Yeah. And you guys out in the field, your people, I always said this, surround yourself with smart people, smarter than you. Mm-hmm. You cannot do it all. And if you think you can do it all, you're in trouble. Oh, yeah. Now, if you want to own one restaurant or one little business, go ahead, do it. Yeah. But if you want to own more, you better put some good people around you. But so isms, I'll say this right now. We've said this before. One of mine, I'm going to throw it out there. We heard it before. Every rock's in its place. And truly, when you explain to a manager, those landscaping rocks, they're right in that spot. If we can make sure every morning they're in their spot, then I guarantee there's not going to be a Coke bottle out in the parking lot. The windshield, the windows should be clean. Things like that. And that's what it goes back to. If you can teach yourself to throw these words out there and spend some time on it, I promise you it won't be hard. If you look at yourself, look who you are, look how you were built, look what your future wants to be like, what kind of father, mother, whoever. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you come up with a lot. So, that's one of the ones that's really important to me. I think another one that's really, really important to me is Into the Storm. Mm-hmm. And that's part of our podcast name. And what's that mean? It's just taking its whole, that ism is that I really have driven kind of through that is rolled into building machines. And that's been it's in our conference room, posted all over, it's on our shirts, posted all over. And what's that mean? Again, Into the Storm. That means personal to me, because when I heard the Buffalo story, what it meant, personal, y'all don't know this yet, but you will learn it more, going through a personal challenge of going through cancer 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. And, tackling some issues that I have personally now, that I'm dealing with in health. It's into the storm, and it's not easy. Yeah. Sometimes it's not, but you have to keep your head down and go forward. And when you teach your staff that, and your team, your herd, they can understand a little bit more to that. So that's what's important to me. And with that, so Kim,
let me hop in there real quick, because the visionary, the isms are always so easy. Your list, we can follow you all the time. We follow the vision, but I think for me as an operator is an ism for me that's hard to list out is I'm constantly being a student. And I'm constantly, when I work with my leaders or I'm speaking with people, I always want them to walk away from the conversation and have something of value. Yeah. I always want to challenge them, no matter how good they are, or what level I'm coaching. I want them to walk away and go, maybe I should read that chapter, or maybe I should go invest some time into that person, or maybe I wasn't paying enough attention to the guest, so I'm going to go spend a little bit more time with them. So being a student for me always, no matter what level of the organization you are, is an ism. And that could be through personal development and leadership training and reading and looking at your others. It can be for conversations that you're having, at the store with folks. But I believe that an ism for me is I'm always forever going to be a student. I'm going to be a student for myself, and I'm going to challenge myself to try to be the smartest person in the room. And what that means is I'm the most prepared and researched. And I feel as though I'm very confident to have a conversation about the topic at hand, because the result of that is people, when you get in positions of power, they have to listen to you and they have to follow that herd. And then I cascade that down. And being a student for me, that's not an ism that people can follow, but it's a style. They can look at, man, Justin's always got a book on his desk. Why does he do that? Yeah. I'll have all the answers. And I constantly want to challenge myself to make sure that people get a really appropriate, researched, respectful conversation.
What I love about that is both of y'all are probably this way. My isms are probably you're thrown out there to the public or to people or to train or to lead my team. Your isms sound like it's your personal ism. Like, I want to be the smartest people in the room. That is your ism to yourself. And you live by that.
When you're speaking in front of a lot of folks and they have to take your orders and run with them, you do want to take that approach and be as researched as possible, because it matters.
Yeah.
So and for me, it gives me a level of comfort, because speaking in front of people is not easy for me. Speaking to people I don't know is not easy for me. And when I approach it in a certain way of just being researched, asking peers, asking the visionary, asking the accountability master, like what can I do to prepare for this? So when that time does come that I'm given that grand speech or given that grand coaching moment, I'm prepared with which way that conversation can go. That means a lot to me as being an introverted person.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. And I think isms for me, honestly, is a quick, short way to pour into those around me that I am leading, for them to get my vision in a 1 or 2 liner. Yeah. To know, okay, if I say failure is not an option, it's just the pathway to success, they know.
That's enough.
They know that's enough. Like, okay, even though I may make a mistake, she's going to recognize that I made the mistake, but I can redo this and get better, or whatever it may be. So for me, it's just a quick, sure way of pouring into our team and them buying into our isms.
So like when you post a social or just send a text to one of your guys underneath you, one of your business coaches, you're meeting with those guys, just a little text or an email or just a call or a post, people pick up on that right away.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm very biblical driven.
Yeah.
So I point out things that are in the Bible, like Habakkuk 2:2, and it says, write down your vision and let those read it. And so that's why I'm so embedded in company meetings and making sure that we strategize, we stick to our script, because that's just my roots. That's where I go. So for me, people know that that's Kim's ism.
So that's the first I've heard you say that.
Yeah. Because, we, as visionary of the company, we're always listening and hearing your isms. But a lot of times in the support office, we don't get to share our isms because it's not our role, right?
Yeah.
It's just our role in those immediate people that we are leading, so that they know how we lead our company.
I see it too. And it's crazy you bring that up, because if there's a meeting at 9:00, who's in there at 9:00, laptop open, and ready to go? And at 9:03, we're scrambling to get in there. So like timeliness, meetings, corralling folks. She corrals the herd all of the time, and that's totally an ism for you. And in even the high level points that you make, I mean, we had a conversation the other day. I think another awesome ism for you is just being able to wear the hat and have a company mindset all of the time and protecting the herd and saying, hey, have you thought about the repercussion of what you're doing from a company perspective? Hey, it's awesome, but you should wear this hat and think of it from these 3 different ways before you approach that convo. And you give people in a couple lines the ability to walk away, think about it, process, and come up with a plan that still has elements of awesomeness, but then protects the company. And I'm constantly, especially in leadership, you have got to make sure that everything you're doing wears multiple hats, and there's a company safety perspective. There's all kinds of things that go into that. And your ism is you have the ability to do that in just a couple sentences sometimes.
Yeah. It's because that's the way my brain works. My brain works in a cube. So I always constantly look at all sides of the cube. And that's just how I approach everything that I do.
Right. We got glass half full, glass half empty. Those are isms. I mean, and that's it. But
it's funny. It's funny that I throw that out there sometimes in the meetings, and people understand what I'm saying. But then I get home and Kim's like, "I'm tired of being half full." Or half empty. You're always, I want to live with you in that world, but that's an ism. And it's just, but it's interesting, Kim, that you say that because, you don't throw them out there as much, but you have them on your personal mind and your level and in the people that you lead.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I guess as leaders, we should accept that. But, I would think that, I want to challenge you to throw them back at me because I want to know that. Yeah. Because I can utilize that even to learn more. So as we have these open conversations more, I would love to hear y'all's because I know I say mine a lot. And, I know Justin's come to me and said, where did you ever come up with that one? It's like, it just came out. And I think we all have those. And you're very biblical. And to hear that one, now I know you. I've been married to you for a long, long time. And we've been business partners for a long, long, long time.
Yeah.
And just hearing that's what I love about this is we get to open up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's one. We work in a support office, and an ism for me that an old mentor said all of the time is like, how does this impact the guest? Like everything we do should have an impact on our guests. We're in the business of hospitality.
Yeah.
And you always have to ask yourself, it's like, what are we doing here? And as a company, I think we do a really, really good job at that, but we don't always ask that question.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here? Does this impact the person grabbing a drink or getting some hot, fresh food right now? And how does it impact them? Or does it impact the manager that's at the store right now, saving them time and giving them more time with their guests? So that's an ism for me that I don't always talk about. But I promise you, every single thing we do here at the office, I'm constantly going, does this impact the guest or does it not? And how does it impact the guest? But I don't do a good enough job, vocalizing that, I guess. I just run,
Yeah.
And that's awesome ism that you can easily share with your leadership team that's in the field is like, hey, do we need to replace this? Hey, is it impacting the guest? I mean, is your fryer down? And a store that's super, super busy, you got a fryer down. It's like, whoa. I mean, you just cut off 20% of your productivity in the restaurant and you're already packed as it is. So that's important because I think when we go back in the field and we talk to these guys like, well, I'm struggling here. Well, does that impact the guest?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Then why didn't we fix it? Why didn't you call? Well, it's not in our budget. Well, you could have came to the support office, could have came to Kim. If it impacted the guests, well, we could have fixed that. We could have altered that budget.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to use your isms. And like for me personally, and my position, when I sit with a bank and we're going over loan processing and borrowing of money and everything, they know, my bankers that deal with me know that no is an obstacle for us.
Yeah.
It's not an option.
Yeah.
So they know ahead of time, Kimberly's going to ask.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I get ready for the no, but that doesn't stop us
as
a company. We just continue to plow forward, and we meet in the middle sometimes. But that's an ism in my mind where I'm comfortable with.
Yeah, and it's something you set right apart because I still know I'll see some of these guys or they'll email me like, hey, we just left the office and we know Kim's probably not going to accept that. I'm like, you know that. You know that. So you better come back with something she wants. So that's good.
I've seen it. Hey, on Thursday, I need this by Friday because we're going to do something awesome for an employee. And instantly in my head, it was like, there's no way we can do that. And because of your ism, it was like, no. The response needed to be, how do we rally the herd and get creative and make it happen?
Yes.
So that leadership style is totally an ism for you because you do not accept no. Yeah. You're looking for someone around you, and especially the folks that you surround yourself, to be creative in solutions.
Yes.
And so this is important because isms aren't just motivational. right?
Right.
They're your DNA.
That is.
They're who you are. And like what you're saying right now, we know you're stern. We know you have, this is your points. This is what you're going to stick to. We know you're very biblical on that. So I guarantee you bring anybody on this guest panel that works for us, they're going to say that about you. Yeah. Kim's to the point. There's no gray. It's very biblical. And she is so nice to us.
Yeah.
You always know where you stand. Yeah. And that takes a lot of anxiety and fear out of the workplace.
Oh, yeah.
If you always know where you stand with someone and they're consistent, you can be tough.
Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people think just because isms are, you just got to be a great leader and isms, it's got to be positive. I mean, it just has to be who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very important. We go back to our isms, and this is one of the things that I've met with managers before, or guys that are really down on themselves and like, well, I messed up. It's a bad shift, and we make this ism a lot, and I use this one, and this is more motivational part of it. When I said, hey, if you didn't try, that's not what we want. We want you to try to do this, but if you fail, just fail forward.
Fall forward, yeah.
Fall forward, fail forward. But when they hear that, it's like, wait a minute. Yes, to me, you tried, but I'd rather you do that than not try anything.
Yeah.
Right. And then but if you fell backwards, it's because you didn't try. You were short staffed that day, or a fryer broke down that day, or something happened that you just froze. So fail forward, and that's one that they pick up on. Then I see them a lot. Like, hey, I'm failing forward. And I said, yes, and I'll still give you a high five. It wasn't the best, but at least you tried, right?
Yeah.
So I think those isms can do so much more for your team. Some are really directed towards your leadership, and then some are directed down to the herd down there at the very bottom, maybe a cashier or somebody that's working for you. You could just say, hey, you tried. Yeah. I get it. You did everything possible that you could do, but we missed a little bit. But at least we're happy you tried.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a nugget for like the whole idea of we're always supporting folks. So like we don't perceive ourselves as a corporate office. We're a support office. We're here to support their jobs, support the guests, support the process, come up with awesome ways for them to do their jobs. But that pivot and that ism that we made, kind of as if we rolled out Aspire to Be, has been a big adjustment, because there's a mindset of, oh my goodness, I need to email corporate, or oh my goodness, there's this wall between us and corporate. We support them. That they're the ones out there in the field in the front line, and being a support office is a really big ism that all of us take to heart, but we don't talk about that all the time either. So that's a nugget. If you're thinking of a way to connect with your teams, call what you guys are at your office, what you're actually doing. Yeah, and if you can't call yourself a support office, you're probably not supporting them.
Well, that was a change that we made.
Yeah.
Because we were corporate. We were considered the corporate office, but we made that change as a support office. And just making that conscious effort to change that one word resonated throughout the field, on down to our hourlies.
Yeah, and that's important too. That it's just the word sometimes. To guys out there, you're listening to this. It's you don't have to put too much thought into it, but just think how you would feel, right? Like how would you feel, and whatever it's in your heart that you want to say or comes out, or write these down, and then think about if you're on the other side. What if you heard your leader say this to you, or this word to you? What would it mean to you? And I think it's important that, and I think that's what's a culture builder too. I mean, Aspire to Be. I mean, it's like changing support office from corporate to support. Aspire to Be. That's an ism.
Yeah.
Because you just said our company name. You're posting our company name. And that's what it is. And, we have I love that, because we have a great friend of ours, our best friends forever. And their son is an awesome running back for us. And we're so proud of him. He's a junior football player. And, our kids finished football, so we got to go watch our girl cheer. Yeah. But we're both football parents. But it's like, hey, we're still watching the cheer. But after every game, we go down and give him big hugs. And every time he sees me, Jess, I don't know if you got to come down with it. He's like, Chris, I'm aspiring to be more.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes,
and he said every time he does that, and that just to me like kicks in. It's like, okay, it's an ism. It's a name, it's a word, and it's challenging this young man to be a better running back, maybe a better future, what he wants to do in the future. So it's really cool. So that's an important thing. So with both of y'all, is there like a golden nugget, like a most special ism that you've heard or that you use that's to you?
I've got like two that come to mind. So the ism for me that in everything that I do is I'm always trying to make things more simple and more intense. And we say that just the whole idea of simplify and intensify. And I think in really hard problems, and especially in leadership, you're dealing with a whole lot of information at one time and having to make good decisions. It's never bad to make things simple and make them intense and go all in on them. And then the second piece, and this is my truism, is I'm always trying to make things that I like to do align with all facets of my life. So I like to have coffee. Is there a way that I can do that with my family, that I can do it with my kids, and I can also do it with the folks at work? Because the reality is my ism is I love what I do and I love work. So love what you do. And then if you can get really good alignment and have good family time, good kid time if you have them, and then also pour into folks, call it on your off time, and lead and, and pour into them. And really the secret nugget there is find out where they need help. Don't push on them where you think they need help. So if they're struggling in life, work with them on life. That. If they're struggling with labor in their store, work with them on labor in the store. Yeah. If they want to become a leader for you one day, start reading leadership books and just navigating them through how to have a template, show up to a place on time. And that's something that I'm spending a ton of time in, and it's a true ism for me. And I don't see it as a task. I don't mind. I see it as a challenge to me of just how much can I possibly pour into everybody and anybody all of the time, and back to the beginning of it, and have them walk away with something of value. Yeah. Did that actually work? Yeah. Did they actually gain something, or was that a waste of time? You have to ask yourself that. So that's mine.
I like those are awesome. And how you pour into people, because I feel like we actually work for people, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're the ones that keep us employed. And so amen. For me, I've always, if the good Lord giveth and the good Lord taketh away, and that really keeps me humbled as a owner, founder, entrepreneur. And so that humbles me on a daily basis. Now, do I ace it every day? Absolutely not. But I try my best to stay connected so that I can share that love and I can pour that love into others. And so, you asked me my two isms. That's it.
That's
my foundation.
That's important. You got to have a foundation. And as you're out there, struggling, starting out, and just trying to look at different nuggets that you can do to bring into your company to help, I feel like this is a great starting point.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're really struggling, like I hear this word culture, I see these companies doing this. To really find that culture in yourself, you got to go find who you are and how you want to lead and you could change that, man. I'm telling you, I wasn't the leader that I am today.
Yeah.
I'm not. I watched a lot of great leaders and not so great, and I took a bit of each.
Well, what's yours? Because you asked us ours, and I would think we both are pretty in tune with Chris. But what's yours?
I think this was when I say I changed as a leader, because I've always watched, and I had the opportunity of working for different people that weren't the best. The way they treated the people and the kind of way they treated me. But then I still admired them because they were leaders or business people or what. But you would take a little nugget from each. It's like you built the Lego man, kind of like, this is the perfect who I want to be. But then again, I don't like that. I don't like that who I am. Mm-hmm. Take that part out, put it back. You could always constantly change. So I think I'm going to this part. One of the biggest isms, I think that there's two that I really that's bounded me, and it's one that's kind of changed me and humbleized me after some things in my life that's happened. It's we're not building castles. Your company, you might think's a castle, and it might be your personal castle. And you think of a castle, you put a moat around it. So I said, we're not building castles with moats. Mm-hmm. We tore that down, we filled in the moat, because you think a castle. You're building your network, you're building your company.
Right, it sounds cool, grand. You pump it
up. But what
happens
happens when a castle, like when it gets attacked? They pull the drawbridge up.
Yep, everybody out.
Everybody only at a certain end, and everybody's outside. And then here the badness comes. There's alligators to keep you from getting in the castle.
Yeah,
that's not good.
Yeah,
that's not a good, especially where we're at today in this world. Then you tear that down, fill it in. Guess what we're doing on this hill? We're building a moat. And when I tell our people that we're building an ark. Build an ark.
Yeah. No moats.
No moats. We're filled in the moat.
Yeah.
But you're building an ark.
Yeah.
And then people look at our leaders. And I remember we had one that, was a great member of our team a while back and left us and for other opportunities, but came back and wanted to have coffee with me. And one of the things he said too, before, we just talked how he was doing and how things are going. He said, one thing I've seen a difference in the company and who we are and who you are. And one of the things I really admired is you talked about tearing down the castle and building the ark. He said, that's who I want to be. That's what I want to be. I said, that's what we do. Bring all the people in the ark. I mean, and they say the storm's not coming. It's coming, no matter what it is in the hospitality, but it's coming all the time. But you protect your people. You bring them on board. Everybody's invited.
Boy, did our call this morning look like an arc when all our leaders are sitting on a herd update and we're collaborating? I mean, that's not a castle.
No, that's not a castle. Everybody's
arc.
sitting there. I'm sitting there. I actually took a picture of that.
I have it too in my phone.
I took a
crazy.
Picture because everybody's in some kind. One's in an office, one's over here, one's over here, and they're all wearing Aspire to Be shirts,
like an arc.
T-shirts. Yeah. I mean, our boy Jake over there in Starbucks and Go over there, we delivered him a great shirt because they've been killing it, and he had that shirt on, Aspire to Be More, this morning. I was so proud. And I looked on the Starbucks camera. Every one of them have it on the new shirts on. Good. So that's you're right. That is no castle. That is no castle. That's an ark that we're building. But the main one that I think I go back to, it's important to me, is I always say this: pay attention to the small things that most will never see. Mm-hmm. If we can teach our people in the level of where the guests are at, because sometimes you got to go, you got to walk outside. I used to tell our guys this: hey. I used to do this when I opened my first little Quiznos. I'd get it open, then I'd walk outside, and then I'd walk inside like a guest. Mm-hmm. What does it feel like to be a guest? And if people would do that, like, okay, your store's open, your business open, whatever you're doing, go actually shop your website, go shop your store, go shop your business, and see what it feels like to be a guest. Because you're getting like these apps to, order your food or get rewards. You don't really. You're thinking, oh, it's great, but go be a guest, and see how it feels. So when you teach your people that, I think what blew people away is I remember we were opening one of our stores, and me and Kim got really frustrated with one because some of our managers don't see this, but, it's the small things that most business owners don't see is our sign at the door says we open at 11, right? And me and Kim would leave church. And we're driving down leaving church, maybe we pass one of our restaurants. And it's 10:59, and there's 30 people lined outside the door. And I get frustrated with like, hey, these people want to come give us money. Unlock the door. Let's let them in. Yeah. And we fuss with that. And we kind of like change it. And they would, then they would stop, then they would. Well, we open 11, okay? So then we were opening a new store. I said, hey, we got a new thing here. It was our training thing. And I said, if we pay attention to the small things that most will never see, this is one of these. Mm-hmm. We're going to open the door at 10:45. So I can change the sign on the door to 10:45, or we can keep it 11, but we're going to unlock that door at 10:45. Because what business or what place can you go to anytime early and get a warm shaking hand, a welcome, a cup of coffee? What is it?
At church.
Yeah.
At church. Yeah. Church says it starts at 10. Yeah. You can go there, I promise you, at 10:30. There's going to be somebody probably there opening the door. They're going to greet you. Yeah. They're going to say, hey, coffee's over here. How are you doing today? Just give you a hug. Yeah. Why can't we be that? So now we challenge our teams 10:45. We open 10. And it's funny, a lot of our team members will send our managers send us, hey, it's 10:50 and we've already rang in $400. Because these people came in and rushed.
Yeah, paying attention to the small detail is like not only a hospitality awesome thing. Like there's a huge profit generator there too. Like holy crap, some of the sales we're doing before 10. It's unreal. Sorry,
but that's that's an ism that they caught on, and it's in an analytical. Painting a picture for them, and they caught on to them. So I think that as you look at your DNA and what things that you can do to better yourself. Because it does, when you hear your isms, it makes you feel better. Makes you feel better as a leader because you're learning as you go, vice versa with you. It's like you're learning as you go. And so I think it's important that you try to focus on that as your company, as you're building it out. Look at that.
Yeah.
It's one of the top part. If I can say anything in a talk or a podcast would say, hey, find your DNA, come up with some isms for you and live by those. Put them on your shirt, put them on your business card, put them on your signature page, Proverbs 14:23, big thing. It's for us. So, but no, great conversation, guys.
Yeah. Thank you for it.
I think this is one of the topics that came up. We were sitting around talking. It's like, hey, this is one we need to kind of put to the top, right? This needs to be in our first season because this is kind of our DNA. And as we go, we learn more and we change them. Yeah. Or we add them.
Build to them.
Yeah, build to them.
Building blocks. Yeah.
So, thank you guys for coming on here. Thank you too, for being part of this. Again, go subscribe to our podcast. Make comments. We'd love to hear them, and we'd love to talk about more topics that you might want to hear because we think we know it all. But if there's some topics that we want to push up to the top, we will push them to the top. Okay. Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate you.
Cool.